Hello and welcome. Whatever led you to click on this video today, I am so glad that you're here and I'm so excited to be taking this journey with you. I hope that what I have to share is beneficial and it blesses you in some way, shape, or form. And I hope that you can take what you learned today and implement it immediately into your life and into your children's lives. And I hope that you are just excited to start something new. First, I'd like to welcome you. I'd like to invite you to click on the notification bell, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and just so that you are notified when new videos do come out and we are able to take this journey together and walk together as new material is presented on YouTube and in other formats. Today, we are going to be talking about misbehavior in your children and what is likely to be causing that misbehavior and how we can respond to that misbehavior in an alternative way rather than pushing away or punishing. So first, I would like to explain that all behavior has a purpose. So if you're seeing some sort of behavior, there's always a purpose or a need underneath that behavior. What we see is the behavior up here, and then there's so many things underneath the surface that we as parents need to dig into to figure out and be detectives to solve the problem that the child is having or meet the need that the child has and just doesn't have words to express. Whether we're dealing with an infant, a young child, a teenager, or even adults in interpersonal relationships, if the adult over here wasn't taught as a child over here how to respond to conflict or how to address their own feelings or how to meet their own needs and self-regulate, then they're likely not able to do it in their adult relationships or with their children. So if you as a child had all of your physical needs met and your parents took care of you and made sure that you had food and clothes, and as a baby your diaper was always changed, but the emotional needs weren't met, then you likely have a dismissive attachment style to your parents, and you're likely implementing or creating a dismissive or avoidant attachment style in your children. So this is a full cycle. The way you were raised is likely how you're raising your children, whether you're aware of it or not. A lot of people will grow up and say, I'm not going to do what my parents did. But if you don't have another strategy and you don't dig in to learn what another strategy or another alternative way is, then you're likely implementing and modeling that same behavior, because that's, as human behavior, that's what we do. That's all we know. When we know better, we can do better. But if we don't learn and we don't know any better, then we can't do better. We can't bring our children somewhere we've never been. As much as we want to, as much as we try to, as much as we desire to do that, unless we do the work, the hard work, it won't happen. So we need to be mindful and we need to be aware of where we came from, what our current situation is, and what we're bringing and what we're modeling to our children. So with that being said, with knowing that all behavior has a need that needs to be met, especially negative behavior when our child has a meltdown, or if we see our child throwing things or being aggressive or hitting, biting, scratching, taking toys from somebody else, what we're seeing in our child is a need that they don't have words to express. So as an adult, when we're close by and we're present and we're aware of what's going on, we're aware of the situation, then we can be there immediately and help that child walk through the problem together, and we can help that child meet that need. We're teaching the child self-regulation. But if we leave that child on his own and we leave that child to meet their own needs, that's when we're going to see the strategies of aggression. We're going to see manipulation. We're going to see lying as they get older. We're going to see any type of survival strategy for that child to get their needs met, because we are born, we are created to connect with other people. We have it in us to connect to especially our caregivers. And if those emotional needs go unmet and the parent isn't there to help that child walk through those big feelings that they are having, then the child is left on their own to develop the what we call the fight, flight, and freeze responses. And that's something that we don't want to see in our children. We want them to be able to self-regulate. We want them to be able to meet their needs appropriately with words as they grow and as they develop friendships and as they develop romantic relationships, and then as they become parents of their own children. We want them to be able to have that successful the successful skills, the skills in order to develop those strong relationships. And in addition to that, we want to make sure that our children are connected to us. So when they go through their teenage years, they come to us when they're having these big problems. They come to us to work through the conflict that they had with their friends, or if they see something in the world that's not right, we want them to come to us to work through those confusing times, especially as teenagers, as all the hormones are increasing and all the things are happening, especially in the world today. We want our children to feel safe to come to us and talk to us so we can maintain that not only connection and relationship, but maintain that the moral compass for our children to walk through life successfully. So with all that being said, I would like to just share with you a little bit about Dr. Dan Siegel. He's written many books, and he has taught many seminars on connection and on self-regulation and on the yes brain and just being present with your children. So he created this hand model that explains the brain in a really simple way that you can even teach your young children, 5-6 years old. You can teach them how to use this in times of crisis or in times when they're starting to have those big feelings. You can create the strategy proactively to help them grow and learn, and how to identify within themselves what they're feeling and how to solve that problem or meet that need. Whether it's with you or on their own, eventually they're going to be able to self-regulate. So the hand model looks like this. You have your hand, this wrist, the wrist part, it represents the spinal cord of your body. This part up here is the cortex, or your thinking brain. The upstairs brain is what he refers to it as. This is where you have all your logic, your reasoning, your ability to solve problems, your ability to communicate with others. It has your language. And then this part right here is right behind your forehead, the frontal cortex. Again, it has your ability to self-regulate all of the emotions that are happening in the brain and all of the feelings that are happening in the body and any behaviors that you might be expressing. This is your regulation part of your brain. Under here is what we call the downstairs brain, and it has the brain stem and the limbic system, which has all of your emotions, and that fight, flight, freeze response is down here. It's controlled by the limbic system, and your amygdala right here is what it's basically your survival brain. So it responds to, we need this, right? We need this in times of crisis, or if you're being chased by a bear, say, which is exaggerated, but we need this. If we're in danger, this is what kicks in to take over. When the amygdala is triggered, so if you're talking to your child, the amygdala hears the tone of your voice. So if you have a harsh tone, or if you're angry or you're frustrated and you're speaking in a harsh tone, the amygdala is going to take over in your child's brain, which is going to likely shut down this part of the brain, the upstairs brain, which is the ability to reason and understand and communicate effectively and appropriately. So if the amygdala is triggered, you're likely not getting any part of this engaged. So what he calls it is flipping your lid. So when you flip your lid, you are now working in the downstairs brain, and it's your survival brain, and you're responding in a survival way. So you're not able to be logical, you're not able to reason, you're not able to comprehend what actually may be occurring, and you're not actually able to solve the problems that is in front of you. that are in front of you. So when you flip your lid, you want to make sure that you're able to when your child flips their lid, you want to make sure that you are with your child so that you can bring them back online and get those connections and get the upstairs brain back connected, communicating with the downstairs brain so that you have a full functioning child who's able to learn. If your child has flipped their lid, he's not going to be able to learn. He won't be able to process what's going on. He won't be able to understand what you're teaching in that moment. So we want to make sure that we bring that fear response down, we get the brain connected, and we help our children get through those big feelings. So when you teach your children to understand this, you can teach them this is like a signal. So if you start feeling, you're telling your child, if you start feeling those, your face starts tightening or your teeth start clenching or your body you feel that tightness, your shoulders raise up. If you feel that tenseness in your body and you start to feel anger rising up in your body, then you can come and show me a signal and I will help you through that. So the signal can be this, whereas you flipped your lid or you're about to flip your lid, you can come and just show me this model right here and I will help you through it. We can meet your need. We can walk through the feelings together. We can talk about what is happening together so that I can help you through and I can bring you back to that learning brain. We want to make sure that we're teaching our kids. So for example, if your child is having a conflict and she is having big feelings and she has a meltdown because she didn't have any other strategy to implement. She didn't have a strategy. So she melts down, she cries, she throws herself on the floor, she throws things across the room. If you take that child and you say, go to your room and think about what you've done, that child is not only not going to think about what she's done, she's not capable of thinking about what she's done. She doesn't know why she's acting in that manner, and she has nobody to guide her through the big feelings that she's having. So all she's doing is she's going to her room and she's internalizing, I can't have these feelings. My mom and dad send me away. They don't like when I feel like this. I don't know what else to do. And so the next time this conflict happens, the next time these feelings arise in her, she's either going to do the same thing because she doesn't have any other way, or she's going to suppress her feelings and she's going to shut down, and she's then going to have all these feelings build up. I'm sure some of you do this as well as adults. We suppress our feelings, we pile on feeling after feeling, event after event, stressor after stressor, and then all of a sudden it all comes out. And that's not a healthy way to manage our stress. It's not a healthy way to manage our behaviors. It's not a healthy way to manage our emotions. We need to help our children understand that all feelings are okay. It's okay to feel any feeling that you're having. It's not okay to act in any certain way. All behavior is not okay, but all of your feelings are okay, and we can work through them, and I will help you to address them, but acting in this way is not okay. The other thing your child needs to know is that when they do have those feelings and even if they do act a certain way, they need to know that your love for them is unconditional. They need to know that they are still precious in your eyes. They need to know that even though they're misbehaving and they're acting out, they need to know that no matter what, you're going to be there for them and you're going to love them through it and you're going to help them. If you push them away, you send them to your room, you punish, you take things away, you ground them. When we do that, the child internalizes that they're bad. They internalize that they themselves are not important, that they don't have a voice because they can't access their voice. They've never been taught how to access their voice. And when they do use their voice in the only way that they know, that's not okay towards their parents. That's not okay in their parents' eyes. So they have to figure out a strategy to cope with that feeling and how to react and respond, which is likely, if they don't have the guidance, it's going to be a negative behavior. So when we bring our children, when they're having a meltdown, on the other hand, if your child's having a meltdown and he throws himself on the floor and he kicks and screams and hits somebody else, you bring that child in. You will, and we will go through this in videos to come, but you bring that child in and you go through the steps of where they are at, and you have to respond in a way that's matching them, but not mimicking them. Their mirror when you match their intensity, their mirror neurons are triggered, and they are able to relate to you in that moment, and they know that you're there for them, and they start to realize that they're being supported. And no matter what they do, you're still going to walk through those feelings with them, and you're going to teach them. If that connection and that trust is not built, that connection and that trust is not created within your relationship, children tend to go in the opposite direction. Like I said, they tend to start lying and hiding and manipulating and bringing out all of these behaviors that we don't want to see in our children. So, in order to avoid that, we need to connect. We need to bring them close. We need to walk through the feelings with them. We need to walk through the problem-solving skills with them. We need to let them have a voice. We need to let them tell their side of the story. If you come into a situation and two children are screaming and crying, you need to allow both children to tell their side of the story so that you can come to that middle ground and help them understand what happened, what was this person feeling, what was going through this person's mind, and being mindful of the situation and where not only the child is at himself, but where the other child was at as well, and where they were coming from, and what need that child may have had at the time. So teaching our children to be mindful of not only their own history, their own current situation, but also of other people's mindset as well. That's just a skill that we need to have as adults to understand and to have conversations with people that may not agree with us in certain things. So again, if we don't teach our children, they won't use the appropriate strategies. If you were never taught these strategies as a child, if your emotional needs weren't met as a child, you're likely not able to bring your children into that. It's called the attachment cycle, and it's called a cycle for a reason, because the way your grandparents were raised were likely the way your parents were raised, were likely the way you were raised, and likely the way that you are raising your children. So when you stop and take a breath and really dig into your history and understand where you came from and understand your triggers and what may have happened to you as a child, you can really start to heal. And that in turn will then start healing your children and teaching them a different way and helping them understand positive responses to stressors, to triggers, to even just unmet needs. We want to teach our children how to be successful in the world. So with all that said, I am creating a course, and it will go over this, just kind of scratch the surface of it. I wanted to give you just a little piece of information to just be aware of and to be looking for. In the description box, if you look below on this YouTube video, there is a link that you can subscribe to my email list, and you will then in turn get 2 freebies, 2 little worksheets that you can look at, and it'll help you understand the behavior of the child, but you can look to see what might be underneath that behavior, and you can start digging into how to help your child heal and how to help your child cope with the stresses that he may be feeling. And then you'll also receive a worksheet that just gives you a side-by-side of what a parent might say to a child, and what you can say instead to help build that connection and build that trust and build that respect, so that your children are more likely to want to obey you and want to follow your rules rather than being pushed away and being told that, not being told verbally, hopefully, but internally they're feeling that they're bad. We want our children to know no matter what, they are precious to us, they are loved, they are cared for, and no matter what behavior they are demonstrating, we are there with them to help them find a better tool to use in the next time that this happens. So be sure to subscribe to my email list. With that, you will also be notified when my course launches. In that course, we will be talking in depth about risk factors, some things that you just may not even think about, going all the way back to the pregnancy and what may have happened to your child when they were in the womb and they were developing, or what happened maybe to you as a child. We'll be talking about the risk factors. We'll be talking about so pregnancy, the birth, whether or not the birth was traumatic, if your child had to go to the neo-intensive care unit, whether your child had early hospitalization, did they have to have medical intervention? Did your child have to have surgery? Did your child have to have at an early age, did they have to go into the hospital and have some sort of procedure done? That can cause some disruptions in the brain. And then we'll talk about the obvious ones of the trauma, whether it's abuse or neglect or some sort of trauma. COVID-19 is a trauma that we've all experienced and without a doubt has impacted your life, has impacted your children's lives. If they were in school, they were taken out of school, they were taken away from their friends, they were taken away from their extracurricular activities. All of these things play a part into the behavior that you're seeing today. And it's not something that we typically think about. It's not something that we typically are aware of. We're just in that moment of, why are you acting this way? I don't understand it. But when you really dig deep, you can understand and you can respond in a nurturing manner to help your child trust you more and build that connection with you more so that you can have a successful outcome. And then we'll be talking about, also in the course, we'll talk about mindfulness that we kind of touched on in this video here. We'll talk about how to be mindful not only of your history and your current situation, but of other people and what they're bringing to the table, what you're bringing to the current situation, and what your child may be bringing to the situation. And then we'll talk about trust-based relational intervention is an intervention that was created by Dr. Karen Purvis and Dr. David Cross in Texas, at Texas Christian University. They created this intervention for children who are at risk, specifically for kids that were in the foster care and who have been adopted. And the more I am a TBRI practitioner. I did go to the full training, and the more I have dug into this intervention, I have come to love and believe that this is the intervention for all children, not children just who are in the foster care system or who have been adopted, who have come from severe traumatic childhoods. This intervention is just an ideal intervention, ideal way of parenting for any parent, no matter where your children came from, no matter where you came from. It's just so powerful and creates the changes in not only your children, but your own healing journey. It helps you to become aware of what you're bringing to the table and where you've come from. And I have just come to truly believe in this model and implement it with my own children, and have had so much success in seeing behaviors change. So I want to share that with you, and I'm excited to dig into that in the first course that I'll launch, that you'll be notified if you subscribe to the email list. The first course for the TBRI principles we'll be talking about they have 3 principles. So there's the connecting principles, the empowering principles, and the correcting principles. And there's so much to learn in the TBRI model, but in this first course, we will be talking about the engagement strategies and how to connect with your children more and how to be present with your children and how to talk so that they listen and so that they learn from you and so that they're not always on guard and they're not always in that fear response. And we'll also be talking about the correcting principles of what we call the ideal response. And we'll dig into what that looks like and how you can be successful with it and how you can implement that in your own home and teach your children a better way of responding to conflict. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to the email list so you'll be notified when the course is launched. And I hope to see you all there. I hope to see all your names and emails on the list. And I look forward to making more videos and digging into more things for teaching and for sharing. And I'm just so blessed and beyond grateful for all of your views and all of your likes. And we'll talk to you soon.